This isn't the Pokemon world you thought you knew. This is a battlefield where innocence burns, legends bleed, and survival demands sacrifices that scar both trainers and creatures forever. The Adventures manga shattered illusions early, introducing blood, death, and brutality that shocked readers worldwide, pushing Pokemon into a darker dimension far beyond the safety of games and anime. Giovanni revealed his monstrous nature when Red's victory impressed him briefly, before he mercilessly executed two wild Magmar, freezing them solid with Cloyster before shattering them into bloody fragments. This wasn't just a defeat, it was murder, a calculated act of cruelty that proved Giovanni viewed Pokemon not as partners, but disposable weapons crushed under his ruthless ambition. Lance escalated the nightmare further, commanding Dragonair's Hyper Beam against Vermilion City, obliterating buildings, homes, and lives, in a blast so massive it carved a crater across civilization's heart. His justification chilled readers deeper than the destruction, claiming most citizens attended a surfing contest. He admitted, maybe one or two trainers perished, dismissing genocide as a minor inconvenience. Pokémon Adventures refused to soften its blows, showing that legendary battles weren't spectacles of glory, but apocalyptic wars, where humanity's survival balanced on fragile choices and cold-blooded ambition. Diamond's impalement by Giratina remains one of the series' most graphic moments, as the Shadow Force attack pierced his chest, collapsing him lifeless into Pearl's desperate, trembling arms. Bloodless in games, Pokemon here became instruments of torment, with Diamond's body distorting into the distortion world, traumatizing readers who believed they had witnessed the beloved hero's permanent death. The manga taught early that no character was safe, no bond invincible, and no battle free from consequences in a world where legends carried power beyond comprehension. Norman's death during the Ruby and Sapphire arc carved unforgettable heartbreak. Sacrificing himself to summon Rayquaza, he collapsed before his son Ruby, revealing truths of blame, love, and unbearable loss. His sacrifice wasn't tactical, it was personal. A father shielding his son from guilt, shouldering responsibility until the very end, redefining the cost of heroism in the Pokemon world. Simultaneously, Steven Stone's fate sealed the horror further, his life consumed by the mental strain of controlling the Regi trio, collapsing lifeless after halting Groudon and Kyogre's catastrophic rampage. These twin deaths, back-to-back, announced Pokémon Adventures, ruthless storytelling intent. No hero untouchable, no legend untainted, no sacrifice free of irreversible, bloody consequence. Violence wasn't limited to humans. Pokemon themselves suffered graphic horrors, beginning with one of the series' most infamous scenes, Koga's Arbok bisected mid-battle by Blue Charmeleon, shocking readers with raw brutality. The manga showed every detail, scales tearing, body split, the battlefield drenched in grotesque realism. For the first time, Pokemon combat was depicted as living creatures mutilating each other. Though Arbok later regenerated, the moment had already burned itself into history, proving the manga wouldn't shy away from gore, fear, or the unflinching reality of bloodstained survival. Lavender Town intensified this nightmare, turning Pokemon Tower into horror stage, where dead Pokemon rose grotesquely, eyeballs dangling, attacking trainers as reanimated zombies born from tragedy and corruption. Among them, the infamous zombie Psyduck haunted readers with grotesque, dangling sockets, a nightmarish embodiment of what happens when death itself refuses to stay buried in this cursed world. Pokémon Adventures had revealed itself not as a journey of badges and friendship, but a descent into violence, sacrifice, and terror, where innocence shattered beneath the weight of survival. Torture became a weapon in the Ruby and Sapphire arc, where a Team Magma admin used Slugma to crawl across victims' legs, burning flesh while forcing victims into agonizing illusions. This wasn't just battle strategy, it was psychological warfare, reducing Pokemon from partners to tools of sadism, proof of how far villains would sink for control and dominance. The series escalated horror during the Black and White arc, where Unova's gym leaders faced one of the darkest spectacles in Pokemon history, crucifixion under Team Plasma's merciless hands. Cross-like structures displayed their suffering, bodies elevated as trophies of defeat, a chilling demonstration of Ghetsis' complete disregard for human dignity, sending shockwaves through readers unprepared for such imagery. The scene proved too graphic for international release, censored in English editions by altering crosses into poles, softening, but never erasing, the sheer cruelty of this public execution display. The brutality deepened when Ghetsis himself targeted N, the boy he once raised, unleashing an assault that remains one of the most disturbing moments in the manga's history. Laughing hysterically, Ghetsis called N a freak, beating him unconscious with his cane, leaving visible blood as the boy collapsed, helpless after moments earlier, saving his abuser's very life. This wasn't combat between rivals. It was child abuse rendered in horrifying clarity, establishing Ghetsis as perhaps the most irredeemably evil villain in all of Pokemon media. Violence didn't only fall on heroes. Zinnia's story in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire arc revealed how even visionaries of destiny could suffer bloody rejection at a legendary's hands. When she attempted to bond with Rayquaza, the dragon stabbed her in the stomach, leaving Zinnia coughing blood, collapsing in pain from the rejection of the Pokemon she revered. Readers recoiled at the depiction, especially as the attack targeted a female character, with later translations editing out blood to soften the impact without erasing the brutality itself. These moments proved Pokémon Adventures wasn't afraid to challenge perceptions, confronting audiences with imagery that pushed far beyond friendship into the realm of physical torment and human suffering. Each arc blended grotesque violence with personal loss, intertwining cruelty, sacrifice, and pain into a narrative tapestry that refused to shield readers from the consequences of ambition. The Slugma torture, crucifixions, Zinnia's stabbing, and Ghetsis' abuse forced fans to acknowledge Pokémon Adventures as a world where cruelty wasn't hinted at, it was shown without apology. These weren't isolated horrors, they formed a consistent pattern, building the series' reputation as the darkest interpretation of Pokémon, where every battle carried the possibility of blood and sacrifice. The Pokémon world here wasn't designed for comfort. It was written as a warning about power unchecked, ambition unchained, and humanity's willingness to bleed others for selfish dreams. Fans compared these scenes to moments of psychological and physical horror seen in manga, astonished that a franchise built for children dared tread into such violent, disturbing territory. Yet, this darkness wasn't pointless shock value, it heightened stakes, reminding readers that legendary Pokémon weren't mascots of hope, but devastating forces capable of destroying lives in an instant. Heroes emerged scarred, villains redefined cruelty, and readers understood. In Pokémon Adventures, every page carried potential for horror, every panel a reminder of mortality's weight. This was no longer about catching them all. It was about surviving a world where survival itself demanded blood, sacrifice, and relentless confrontation with humanity's darkest truths. From Giovanni's merciless executions to Lance's genocidal destruction, the early arcs established Pokémon Adventures as a world where cruelty and devastation were not implied, but vividly displayed. Each violent moment served narrative purpose, proving legendary Pokémon weren't symbols of wonder but catastrophic weapons, reshaping landscapes, killing innocents, and forcing trainers into impossible moral dilemmas. The deaths of Norman and Steven in the Hoenn arc revealed emotional depth, showing sacrifice wasn't symbolic, it demanded actual lives, crushing readers with permanent, irreversible consequences. Even when Pokémon survived grotesque injuries, like Arbok's bisection, the imagery lingered, proving the manga's refusal to shield audiences from gore, horror, and haunting portrayals of combat. Lavender Town's zombie Pokémon reminded readers that even death itself brought no peace, transforming sacred spaces into nightmarish battlegrounds, filled with grotesque corpses reanimated into violent monstrosities. Team Magma's use of Slugma for torture highlighted human sadism, demonstrating villains weaponized Pokémon not for battle glory but for psychological torment and calculated suffering. Team Plasma's crucifixion of Yunuj gym leaders elevated cruelty to spectacle, a political message of domination and humiliation, shocking fans so deeply it required censorship in global releases. Ghetsis' assault on N redefined villainy, stripping away pretense, presenting unfiltered abuse, leaving readers stunned by a Pokémon series unafraid to depict raw human cruelty with terrifying realism. Zinnia's violent rejection by Rayquaza symbolized the brutal consequences of failed bonds, a reminder that legendary Pokémon chose not by destiny, but by survival and unflinching strength. Across arcs, this relentless violence built a reputation, Pokémon Adventures as the darkest canon, where death, blood, and horror existed alongside the familiar elements of friendship and courage. Critics and fans noted the stark contrast to games and anime, labeling the manga infamous for pushing boundaries, exploring what a world of battles truly costs. Its graphic nature drew both praise and criticism, some admiring its honesty, others questioning its appropriateness within a franchise long considered safe for children. Yet its willingness to confront mortality, cruelty, and sacrifice gave it unique power, differentiating it as storytelling that treated readers with unflinching maturity. These blood-soaked battles weren't random. They were carefully woven into arcs to escalate stakes, build emotional resonance, and ensure victories felt earned through suffering, not shallow triumph. The narrative revealed that true battles weren't measured in badges won, but in lives lost, injuries endured, and scars carried long after the fighting ended. By pushing its characters through death, mutilation, and despair, the manga achieved storytelling heights unseen in other Pokémon media, cementing its reputation as both controversial and unforgettable. Fans worldwide continue to revisit these arcs, dissecting every disturbing panel, debating whether the brutality added realism or betrayed the series' spirit of companionship. Regardless of interpretation, the bloodiest moments remain cornerstones of its legacy, unforgettable scenes that carved fear, shock, and awe into generations of readers. In Pokémon Adventures, heroes bled, villains tortured, and legendaries annihilated cities, proving this wasn't just another adaptation, it was the rawest, darkest version of the Pokémon world. And when the dust settled, one truth remained unshakable. In this manga, battles never ended with fainting, they ended with blood, sacrifice, and the permanent weight of consequences.